left center field, hit a long way. Out on the run is Liriano, and he makes the catch! An amazing catch! Here comes Ender.
Hi, I'm Prem Panicker. This is Sport and Pastime. And for once, instead of recording on a Sunday, we are doing it on a Thursday because a major development in Indian cricket. You guys have probably got the news by now that Rohit Sharma has retired from Test cricket.
Hi, this is Faisal Sharif, and welcome to Sport and Pastime. Yes, Prem. Sad news. Rohit Sharma is one of my favorite players, and it's come as a shocker, a tad too soon. I thought they'd wait for IPL to get over before they make the announcement or any such thing. But yeah, it had to be done. I was expecting it, but I think the timing is very surprising, don't you think?
Actually, I think that it's come a bit later than it should have, and the reason why is because, see, I don't think after the Australia series, Rohit had a compelling case to make for retaining the captaincy. If you remember, at the end of the Australia series, there was that very, let's say, PR oriented interview that he had done on the ground. Irfan Pathan was there, I remember, and there was somebody else where he talked about his what his thoughts were for the future and all of that. And I remember the sign off line because as Rohit was walking away, I think Irfan Pathan said, "Thank you for everything that you've done for Indian cricket." And Rohit turns around and says, "Yaar kya thank you, main to kahin nahi ja raha." He was
Yes.
basically making a pitch for, I want to continue. But I don't think that he had he had a compelling case to make for himself. Look, I mean, put very bluntly, Rohit has reached a point where you don't know if he can last for 5 days. It's just a physical thing. I mean, even in the IPL, you're seeing him getting subbed out. And then you look at his test record. He has led India in, if I remember correctly, 21 test matches. He's won 12 and he's lost 9. 3 have been drawn. That is not
Yeah.
exactly a case for his continuance. That plus his age, plus his physical deterioration, all of that doesn't really make for a compelling case. What Rohit was necessary at that time because after that whole Virat episode where Virat had to be moved out of the captaincy of the Test team, you needed somebody senior to hold the team together, to manage that transition and all of that. And for that, I mean, there was nobody else other than Rohit. So at that time, he was the right choice, but I don't think he's the right choice anymore.
Right. But Prem,
And what?
what I find, sorry.
No, sorry. I think Indian Express has got some very good sources inside the BCCI because 3 days ago they reported that the selectors have clearly told Rohit that they're not going to consider him for the captaincy. Once that happens, you are the captain, you're not considered for captaincy. If you're picked for the team, it's a come down for Rohit, and there is nothing to protect him from being dropped, right? I mean, if he's in the squad and not picked for the playing 11, his brand value collapses altogether. So I think he read the tea leaves and decided that I'd rather jump before I'm pushed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rather unfortunate because I think, like he said, "मैं कहीं नहीं जा रहा हूँ." He was pretty sure that he was going to play in England because I think in his entire career, which hasn't been like phenomenal Test cricket career, but I think one of the best phases that he enjoyed in Test cricket was when he played in England. Uh, and I think at that time he probably was on top of his game. He played with a lot of patience. You see the number of balls that he played in that series in 2021. Uh, Single-handedly at times he kind of saved India Test matches, and he got an amazing 100. In fact, today I was going through some of the tweets of players who were wishing him, and Irfan and others have said that, cannot ever forget the 21 series. That was like something, it was like the hallmark of his test career at that point of time. So I thought for him to have adjusted and worked so closely on his technique just about 3, 4 ago, to not want that chance again to go out on a high from test cricket. I thought there was a bit of a nudge, and I'm not very sure if it was from the selectors, because I think Ajit Agarkar is not a fan in that sense, but somebody who believes in Rohit Sharma's comeback. Like, nobody really expected him to light the IPL on fire, but he has. In whatever he's played the games, he's really been one of the important aspects, him and Bumrah, why Mumbai Indians have come back.
True. And I mean, since you brought up that 2021 series, what I think that essential tragedy of Rohit Sharma is that when he was playing his best cricket, he was not a regular fixture in the test team. They kept dropping him, they kept taking him and then putting him in the middle order. If you remember, it was in 2019 that he became an opener, and then his game changed. I mean, if you look at what he's done as an opener, he's averaging over 50, except for that last year, 2024, when he had a nightmare second half. Uh,
Correct.
he really did well as an opener, but then again, recency bias, right? If you look at the second half of 2024 in particular, 14 test matches I think he played in 2024, and the series against England, which India won 4-1, was the peak, where he had two centuries and a 50, all of that. He was doing very well. But after that, the three games against New Zealand,
Yeah.
then Australia. I mean, he was averaging 10, yeah. And it was not over one or two games, it was over 11 test innings where he couldn't even break into. I think he had 8 or 9 scores of under 10 in that period after the
Yeah.
England series. Uh, and if you remember, two things. One, in Australia, he actually once batted at number 6. Another time, he benched himself. He didn't play. So
Yeah.
it was like, he himself could sense that his form had gone. So, like I said, I mean, firstly, he got the opener slot much later than he should have.
True.
Secondly, his captaincy itself was given to him as a stopgap. Uh, all of that put together, I suppose this was inevitable. Tragedy, yes, but then Indian cricket is full of those people
Yeah.
having
But I
to,
think that's the story. That's the story
yeah,
of Rohit Sharma, actually. Yuvraj Singh gets injured. He gets a chance in the 2007 T20 World Cup against South Africa semi-final. Plays the innings that gets India to the final. Again, made to eight, doesn't make it to the 2011 World Cup, and
yeah,
it was very heartbreaking, because I remember I was reporting at that time, and I spoke to Sanjay Jagdale and the other selectors, and they said that we were trying as hard as we could to kind of get him into that playing 15, but they just couldn't find a slot for him, and he just had to wait so long. I think he played test cricket also pretty late, at like 26.
yeah,
He got a chance to come. So it's things have not come easy to him, except for, I think, IPL, where he's been winning right from the second season. Everything else has been very hard to come by. You remember that whole time when Virat was the captain, and it was like a matter of time before, when Virat was about to finish. People said that he was the anointed guy, he was going to take over, but it took so long, and it's just been a bit tragic also, like you said, for him, that he's never got things easy, and never when they should have, when he was at the peak of his performances. That being said, he's taken it, he's taken every chance that's come his way.
yeah. He has, unfortunately, again, I mean, instead of his peak, I think he actually got his chances as his career graph on the other side of the peak. And, anyway, the real tragedy is he deserved a better exit, better in the sense of how it was managed. This is, and it's typical of the BCCI, right? Nothing is ever straightforward. You don't have somebody coming out and saying, okay, this is the thing, and we thank Rohit for his whatever services to Indian cricket, blah, blah, blah. It's just somebody making an announcement, then a lot of speculation. There will be planted stories in the media. I think both of us in our reader days, we've gone through all of this, whispers in the
Yeah.
ear saying, this and that and the other, but nobody will ever go on record. Nobody will ever, speak the thing. And if you look at Rohit is very eloquent and he wants to be, but if you look at that graphic that you just flashed about how he announced his retirement, it's very terse, very cursory. Okay, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'll be available for ODI bus. Okay, which is very
Yeah.
unrohit like, and you can sense from it what he is going through at this point.
Yeah, it's very underlined also the fact that he's making sure that
Yeah,
the ODI is still with me. I'm still going to play the white ball format, and I'm not done with that because
yeah,
there's something about leadership and Rohit. I mean, I don't know. The way Mumbai Indians kind of worked the whole captaincy thing between him and Hardik. Now this
yeah.
captaincy uh, is just weird. I mean, does somebody of his stature deserve to be treated like that when it comes to leadership? I don't know. It's very unfortunate.
See,
Somebody like that
see,
deserves a better.
yeah, true. And the thing about the BCCI is something that has always annoyed me, even during the days when I was regularly covering cricket, and subsequently, is that nothing is ever straightforward. Nothing is ever, front and center. Grace is missing from everything they do. Humanity is missing. It's all behind the scenes. It's all politics. It's all whispers. You will get influencers to say this, that, and the other. You'll get this thing to plant stories. And the irony is that ultimately, even Rohit had to depend on that exact same model because he was getting his influencers to, post very convenient. There was, I think, about a week or 10 days ago, there was a supposedly a senior BCCI official saying Rohit will lead in England because we need a strong captain. It was such a bizarre statement. What do you mean by a strong captain? I mean, firstly, you have to justify your place in the side. What strong captain? You're not going to arm wrestle. Yeah? Kya hai? And that was such a
Prem, you
clearly
remember three
planted
weeks ago?
story.
Yeah, you remember 3 weeks ago on the podcast we were discussing, and we discussed that Rohit will not go to England. You remember, and there was
Yeah,
no news, nothing
yeah,
of it, and we discussed because the signs were there when they started gunning for Abhishek Nair, the coach, the batting
yeah,
coach. There was a soft signal that it's not going to be what the captain wants anymore. That was the first soft signal that was sent when Abhishek
yeah.
Nair was very randomly sent, and he quickly went and sat on the dugout in the KKR dugout. But that was the first sign. But they were clear that he was not going to go to England. Whether it was the coaching staff management that wanted it that way, or whether it was the selectors or the management at BCCI, that is still up. But I think it had to do a lot with that they were clear that they didn't want him to go to England. And I think it would have been better if they'd made it clear to him before, much before, when he sat out that last test in Sydney. Because then it looks very
Look,
silly
yeah.
that he said, Abhi khatam nahi hua hai, I'm still there, and then suddenly for him to, abruptly put his cap and throw in his cap and say, I'm done.
Correct, because logically, after the Australia tour, there was supposed to be a review. There was some big talk from the BCCI about we will have a firm review of everybody's performance. The coach was called for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. Then Rohit Sharma was called for a review. That would have been a good time for the management, for the selectors to sit with Rohit and say, look, we think that you're coming to the end of your career as far as Test cricket is concerned, if you would separate Tests from ODIs. Tell them we think that you don't have as many years ahead of you as you've had behind you. We wanted to put that thought on the table and then let you, make your own decision accordingly. That
Yeah.
would have been the graceful doing it, and then let Rohit decide. I mean, why did he not announce his retirement after the Australia series? Because he thought that one way or the other he would still have a place, he would still lead the side in England, he would have that one last series, all of that. And that is because of the ambiguity from the selectors themselves. If you remember, after that review meeting, what came out was, oh, we've had this great review meeting and blah, blah, blah. And what was the outcome of the review meeting? Wives can't go on tour. Uh, you can You can carry so many bags, but not more than that. That was not why
Yeah.
you lost in Australia. So I mean, for me, it is the BCCI will never do what needs to do the way it should be done. It's always backstage, people whispering, people, playing games. It's unfortunate, but yeah, that's our world.
That's how it is. Yeah. But Prem, I remember during that time and during one of the phases, Sanjay Manjrekar talking about Rohit Sharma, and I mean, I'm a big fan of Sanjay Manjrekar, but I think he was a bit dismissive of Rohit Sharma, saying that he's not a great Test batsman. What's the big deal about him not playing if he's dropped? And he's not the greatest of captains and he's not done any wonders in Test cricket, which is not entirely incorrect because Rohit has more or almost equal number of runs in T20 internationals and almost 6,000 in IPL than he has in Test cricket. So that's understandable that he's not by far the greatest Indian Test batsman or even amongst the top three. But where do you see his legacy as a batsman in Test cricket, in Indian Test cricket, amongst the top run getters or amongst the top batsmen? Where would you rank him?
I wouldn't actually, because if you're talking Test cricket, uh, for me, it is what could have been. I think Rohit, when he was younger, when he was, when everything was working for him, his eyesight, his physicality, his game, all were at peak. I think if he had been a regular member of the team at that time, and if he had the chance to open regularly, you would now be in a position to talk about some kind of legacy. It is not anybody's fault that he didn't get that opportunity, because if you remember that time, you had players like Sehwag, you had Shikhar Dhawan, you had Gautam Gambhir himself. You had a lot of, players who deserved their place. But if you're talking of Rohit's legacy, I don't think, as far as Test cricket is concerned, he really has a legacy that puts him in. Forget about the top three. I don't think the top five, top six batsmen in Test cricket, because look who he is. I mean, you're talking of legacy and you're talking of Indian cricket. You'll have to go all the
Yeah,
way back to, the likes of Sunny Gavaskar onwards. There's a whole heap of people who have been incredibly influential as far as Test cricket and opening the batting is concerned. I mean, where would you rate him when you have, say, a Sunny Gavaskar, you have a Virendra Sehwag, you have, each of players who created a paradigm shift in how we. So when you're talking of legacy, it is not runs averages, right? It is, did you bring about a quantum change in the way we play? Is the first thing you look at. So if you look at Sunny Gavaskar, there was a period before Sunny Gavaskar when you could be browbeaten by pace on fast wickets. And then Sunny Gavaskar showed that it was possible for an Indian batsman to play pace with extreme competence.
correct.
Or if you come all the way over to, say, Viru Sehwag, for instance, he changed the way opening was thought of. Opening was like, I mean, the first hour you give it to the bowler. Before lunch,
Take
you
the
just go
shine
to
of the ball and yeah,
yeah, take the shot. All of those dogmas, he just took it and threw it in the dustbin and said, "What the hell? Yeah, if the first ball is to be hit, I'll hit it. Test cricket ho ya koi bhi ho, gully cricket ho, it doesn't matter." And that changed a lot of things. Increasingly it became embedded in our psyche that yeah, you can actually counter attack, and you can make the bowlers afraid of you as opposed to you being afraid of the bowler. So these are things that you think of when you think of a legacy.
correct. But when you
Uh,
talk of legacy, I mean, when you say about making a change, you spoke about, yeah, maybe not with the bat as much, but as a captain, where would you rate him then? Because he did change the culture. He's a very easygoing guy, very approachable, very open door policy. Anyone could walk into his room, sit and chat with him, ask him. And I was just seeing an interview of his, and he seemed very chill. And he was like, these boys, I told them that they need to be really relaxed, back whatever they need to, and they know each one knows what they have to do. I mean, from that point of view, he did create that culture, very easy culture, which was not there when Virat Kohli was the captain.
Yeah, and again, in terms of team culture, we've had ups and downs, right? You had a culture that was inculcated let's forget about all the past, the Gavaskars and Kapil Devs and all that. Even when from the time that we've been covering cricket, for instance, there was the Azharuddin culture where there was no conversation whatsoever. You just came and did your thing. Then you had the Saurav Ganguly culture, which is he'll stand up for you as long as you are his teammate.
Yeah,
He'll stand up for you against anybody, whether it's on the field or in the boardroom or against with the selectors, whatever. So there was that culture that he created. Rahul Dravid created this very cerebral culture. I mean, I remember players from that era saying the problem with Rahul is getting him to shut up. He'll start talking so much theory, and you remember players from that era. Not all of them
yeah,
wanted theory and all this funda and all of that stuff. So yeah, in that sense, and I mean, I have interacted with Rohit, and I know he's a very laid back character. Everything he'll take with there's a bit of humor to him, and he doesn't take himself seriously. He doesn't take this whole thing seriously. Jo karna hai wo karega, but for him it's
yeah.
not the beginning or the end of the world. In that sense, yeah, but it is not a lasting legacy in the sense that the next captain will overturn it. Not everybody can be Rohit. This is a very individual legacy. Only Rohit could be Rohit. That
True.
he's even when he is not doing well, even when he wasn't doing well in Australia, for instance, he was still capable of making fun of somebody else on the field. Catch drop
Yeah,
kiya to kya hai? That kind of thing. He never tied his behavior to his own performance. But how many
yeah.
people can you think of who are like that? Everybody is very
That's
uptight, very protective of their, reputation and stuff like that. Rohit didn't care. And another thing that needs to be said is Rohit at his best, somewhat like Rahane, he would make these very unusual calls in terms of, say, field setting. Almost every Indian captain I know had this thing of if the opposition team was about, let's say, 250 for three or something, lose a wicket, you don't think of attacking. You think of spread out field, in out fields, rakke, try and contain ye wo. Rohit, the score will be 400 for four or something. One wicket will fall, a new batsman will come in. He'll surround him with
correct.
you
Yeah,
know and again, at the start of a session, he won't be defensive. He will be attacking until he realizes that, okay, attack se kuch nahi milne wala. So all of these things did exist in Rohit's case. Like I said, Rohit came onto the test stage too late. And honestly, I think also left too late. Immediately after the Australia series, I think the day he benched himself, that evening would have been a great time for him to just stand up and say, okay, I'm done with this.
yeah. But his mindset was very different at that time. He was clear he was going to go to England. He didn't know what all was transpiring. And I think after Champions Trophy, when I think he was doubly sure that he was going to go to England and that he was going to go to England. He was certain
Sure.
about it. So, yeah. But talking about the fun part, he's probably one of the only captains other than Javed Miadad I remember who went to a toss and forgot what he was going to do. And in the middle
Yeah.
of the toss, he's standing there with uh, with the New Zealand captain Tom, and he's thinking what he's going to do. And Ravi Shastri is asking him, "What have you decided?" And he's like, "I'm lost. I don't remember." He's supposed to be one of the most forgetful guys on the team. He's lost
Yeah.
his mobile. He's lost his some very, very laid back. Very, very laid back in that sense.
Yeah.
But a very likable character in Indian cricket, and someone who's not malicious, not he's the kind of captain who'll tell you to your face he won't play games behind your back. And we have had many captains like that who would play
Yeah.
behind your back and they put it on the selectors and stuff like that. Is not that kind of a guy. He's actually fought for his players. But
Yeah.
the more important question now lies is that who succeeds him. I mean, the obvious answer is, of course, Shubman Gill, because they believe Bumrah won't be able to take the impact of 5 test matches. But what's your take here for the England series and then going forward, building the next test team for India?
So I think you need to get a couple of things out of the way. One of them is that very clearly Rohit has said, I'm willing to lead at least short term during the transition and stuff like that. And I don't think that's a good idea. Uh,
Rohit? No,
I
Bumrah.
think No, sorry, Virat Kohli.
Virat Kohli. Okay.
Uh, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think uh, Virat at this point coming back as captain short term, ये वो short term करके what is the plan going forward? Because the series against England is the start of the new World Test Championship. You might as
True.
well, wipe the slate clean and start afresh. There's no point in again changing horses midstream because Virat is not going to be able to lead throughout the next 2 years. That's for sure.
Correct.
So it doesn't make any kind of sense. The other person who repeatedly puts up his hand and says, at least behind the scenes, says that I want to lead the Indian team is Rishabh Pant. But I think Rishabh Pant in recent weeks, months has kind of blotted his copybook. I'm not talking about his form in IPL. I'm talking about some of the backstage stuff that keeps coming up.
True.
He's pushing too hard and thereby making himself disliked, and that's not what you want at this point. Uh, so those are two options that don't exist. I think my problem with this whole scenario is the BCCI never plans ahead. Where was the succession planning? For instance, if you look at Australia, the Australia tour, which is the last test tour we had, Rohit wasn't available for the first test. What do? You make Bumrah the captain. You're signaling to Bumrah that he is next in line of leadership, right? Bumrah leads. Then, when Bumrah gets injured, you have Rahane stepping in. When Rahane is off the field, everybody is looking around saying, okay, who's supposed to be leading the side at this point? And Rahane is pointing to somebody and saying, okay, you take care of it, I'll just come back. You didn't have a clear line of who's next in line, etc. These are things that you need to do. You can't keep thinking of transitions only after your hand is forced. And here their hand has been forced by the fact that Rohit is no longer in the frame, whether it is the selector's frame or the management's frame or whatever, he's not in the frame. Uh, so who succeeds? See, Bumrah would have been a logical choice, but you're right. Considering what he's been through and considering that this is a five-test series and it's going to be challenging, you also have to consider that the Indian bowling lineup is also going through a period of transition. If you saw
Correct.
Shami bowling, he's not anywhere close to being what he used to be.
True.
Uh, yeah, this is the IPL. It is T20. You're not really looking to swing the ball with three slips in place and all of that. But his pace is off, and even that swing seems to be off a little bit. So I'm not sure how effective he will be. And if you don't have Shami at the other end in England conditions, Bumrah is going to have a huge load to carry because the other bowlers are all
True.
hit the deck, pace, bounce, Prasid Krishna, Harshit Rana, all of them. Then you have Mohammad Siraj, who will be your other swing bowler. Bumrah is going to have a heavy burden to bear, and on top of that, captaincy. Can he last five tests? Should he not be rested occasionally? All of these are questions that the team management is going to struggle with. So maybe that is
Yeah.
why Bumrah is not in the frame. Shubman Gill, uh, on the plus side, he's young. He's what, 25 years old. Uh,
Yeah.
so see, there are pluses and minuses. One is among the pluses, he's got game. He knows
Yeah.
his batting, and with Rohit gone, he moves back into his best position, which is number one. I hated the idea of, just to accommodate Rohit and Jaiswal, you moved Gill down the order. And we keep doing that in Indian cricket, if you remember. To accommodate one person, we'll screw up somebody else's happiness. Uh, I think Gill is a natural number one, natural opener, and he now gets that slot back. In Test cricket, he averages around 35, and he's played enough
That's not
tests
great.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
35 is not
So
a
that's
great
a
number, no, for an open. Yeah.
correct. And another thing you want to notice is that outside of that debut series where he was, I mean, he had the runs, and he was responsible for that Sydney test. Before Pant came and finished it off, it was Shubman Gill who set it up.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
other,
without doubt.
other than that, though, he hasn't been very impressive outside of India. He doesn't
Right.
have the
Prem,
runs.
but my question about Shubman Gill and just about the Indian team is, don't you think there should be a leadership group instead of just putting the entire onus on one leader? Of course, it has to be the vision. Uh, I thought that Shubman Gill, Bumrah, and also Pant during that time formed a really good, like they seemed like a future leadership group. Uh, maybe Pant has fallen back. I still believe that he'll come good. It's just a matter of a season or two. But I think with if Bumrah was to just continue play maybe the first three test matches and then if he had to rest because of the load, Shubman and because Bumrah and Shubman are part of the leadership team, it would just be a succession of carrying on the plans and the vision that they buy into along with the coach Gautam Gambhir. What is the problem in if the captain rests and if Shubman Gill comes in? If there is a vision on how they're going to go about it, I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's very easy said, sitting over here. And it will be a difficult task. But wrong if Bumrah is a better leader at this point of time. He's confident. I know he's coming off an injury, but I just see him as a very natural leader, very easygoing in the space of Rohit Sharma. But he's a great already in Test cricket also. Probably one of the greatest. So why would that be a problem?
I completely agree, and I think what you're going to see is that uh, you will find Jasprit Bumrah being given the onus of managing the bowling group. I think you will find him doing what he hasn't been doing of late, largely because of injury, but he will be back in that mid on, mid off region, managing his colleagues with the ball, talking to them, working with the bowlers and with the captain, whoever it is, on plans, bowling plans, fielding plans, and all of that. I think that's going to be inevitable. You have to be
And it worked
incredibly
well,
stupid
Prem.
not to. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, in
And you
2007
would
it
have
worked
to
when
be.
Rahul Dravid was the captain. Zaheer Khan was leading the bowlers,
Yeah,
and they actually won
yeah.
that series. In England.
Absolutely. Zahir has led the bowling attack. Ishan Sharma, if you remember, has been given the job of managing the bowlers when he was at his peak. So this is not new, and I think it will continue. I think all they're saying is if we make Bumrah the captain and if we have to rest him for a game or so because we don't want to put that a load on him. Let's say you have to rest him, say in the fourth or the fifth test match because by then the outcome is already decided. Whatever. If you have to give him a break, then you have this whole process all over again, right? You have a stand-in captain, Yevo, which is probably why they're not giving him the captain's armband, but I think he will be very much a part of the leadership group. I don't think there's any question about that. If Pant is playing, Pant, whether you want it or not, he will keep giving you advice, and a lot of the time he reads the game very well.
Yeah,
So
he does.
I think that'll continue. The problem with Gill is you can see it one of two ways. One, he doesn't have leadership experience at this level. The flip side of that is he is young, he will learn, and he's been leading Gujarat Titans. Okay, T20 and Test cricket are two polar opposites. The thinking is
Yes,
different. In T20,
correct.
you're reactive. In Test cricket, you might be playing the first session of the first day, but you're also thinking of the last session of the fifth day, and
True.
how everything will evolve, all of that. I don't know, but well, look, you are in a situation where you have to make a change. From that point of view, maybe Gill, but I think there are other options. I think KL Rahul is an option.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm quite surprised that he's just faded away because I remember a time 4 or 5 years ago when the whole stress was going on about Virat having to step down, and I think the BCCI were clear that they were going to hand it over to KL Rahul. I think KL Rahul, his form kind of deserted him at the really bad timing for him. Otherwise, they were very clear. I remember speaking to some people in the BCCI very high up who had the ear of the top management of BCCI, and they were like, KL Rahul is the next guy who's going to lead Indian cricket for the next 5 7 years, and that just didn't materialize. He has the calm, the poise. He's sensible. He's a very good batsman. Can play all the 5 Test matches in England. I clearly see him that there's no way he's going to be dropped unless his form really dips. He would have been a great choice
yeah,
too.
he would have been, he still is, because while I like what you said about somehow his fortunes dipped or his star faded away, I think the problem is also with the management, right? They've never given him clarity about what his position is, what his role is, what is expected of him. One day he has to bat at number three, another day he has to open the innings, he has to go at number six. He's seen as the, and जो भी टायर फट गई उसमें fit करो इसको, and then you expect him to perform, which is, I think, reasonable expectation. And it also, look, I mean, he reminds me of VVS Lakshman. You know, the what in Hindu religion you call Abad Bandhavan. When there is a problem, you call on this guy. And KL
Yeah.
Rahul is the next version of VVS Lakshman. When you need somebody to provide that stability, suddenly KL Rahul is necessary. But I think if you see him batting of late, he's out to prove a point, and I think his form is as good as it has ever been. Secondly, he has experience. He is actually, if you remember, he is, when Rohit was unavailable for whatever reason during that period 2019-24, he has led India. He has been
Yeah.
the captain. Again, like Shubman Gill, he averages in the 30s. I think his average is about 34 or so, and he's played 50 test matches. So 34 is not a very impressive average in tests for a batsman of that caliber. But then again, if you consider that one day you can't bat at six and then wake up next morning and be told that you're going to bat at three, and all of that stuff, I think a good idea would be KL as captain with Gill as his vice captain. You have your transition in place. You go through the
Hmm.
England tour, and then gradually you can, and Gill can sort of learn the ropes of captaincy without the burden of results. That would
Correct.
be one option. And I think I'm going to get slammed for saying this, but I have a third option in mind: Shreyas Iyer.
Yeah,
Why not? Yeah, I
he's
mean,
just waiting to happen. Yeah, he's waiting to happen, no doubt. One of those
see,
selfless new age leaders, really.
yeah, and one of the reasons why I mentioned Shreyas is, look, he's been screwed over by the selectors, by the management, by everybody. They knocked him off the contracts list. And what did he do? He came back and proved his point. He won the Ranji, he won the Irani, he won the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. He was the reason why we won the one of the major reasons why we won the Champions Trophy.
Of course. Yeah.
And he's proved his point that he is not to be dismissed. He had a weakness, definitely. The short ball was a weakness, but if you play the short ball now, I think he's playing it as well as pretty much anybody. He's not Rohit Sharma, he's not Ricky Ponting, but he's not vulnerable anymore. You can't just bounce him
That's
out.
true.
Uh, he has skills which he's proved over and over again. Like I said, Ranji, the Irani, the Syed Mushtaq, all formats he's done very well.
He's
Again, you
almost
could do
taken
the same.
his team to the IPL playoffs. Almost.
Yeah,
They're almost there.
and he is 30, so in that sense he is younger than Rahul, who's what, 33 or so. You could see him leading the side with the brains trust of Rahul available to him, with Bumrah available to him, and with Shubman Gill as his vice captain. The same thing applies, right? For a year, Shreyas is managing the transition, and then by then Gill has learned the ropes. He's become more confident, uh, and he steps in as the longer term captain. That would probably be, so. For me, it is, you have a captain right now who can shoulder the burden. Gill as vice captain, so that he can groove himself into this new role, and
Correct.
then you transition when the right time comes. Is how I would think about it. I'd love to hear how you're seeing this.
Well, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think between Shreyas Iyer, Gill, and KL Rahul, I'd still go with Gill because just the way he approaches his game. I mean, Shreyas does that, but Shreyas had just yet at the test level. But if you see Shubman Gill, there was this one incident that has really got me very impressed with him. On that in that 2021 series in Australia, when they were chasing the next day, everyone was thinking of them drawing the game and hoping that they can draw the game. At dinner, Pant and uh, Gill were talking
Gill.
about how they're going to win the game, and everyone else was literally laughing at them. It was like when Imran Khan said they're going to win the World Cup, and Ramiz and Javed Miandad were laughing behind his back in '92. It was very much like that, where their belief was Pant and Gill. They believed that they were going to win the Test match the next day. I think that approach is very important. When Ganguly brought that to the Indian team, India's fortunes changed. We've documented that well in the 2000 when it started. That's why I think Gill is the guy. I mean, he gets a little too angsty and he gets a little too worked up as a leader, as we saw in this IPL, talking to the umpires and all that. But you've seen what Virat Kohli did when he was starting off. He he's done funnier and sillier things. We never thought that he would make a very good captain. He did turn out to be a very good captain in Test. And I think India's resurgence or wherever they've reached in the last 10, 15 years has to do a lot with the way Virat Kohli led. He really gave emphasis to Test cricket. He really, really fought for it. So in that sense, still go with Gill. I still want Bumrah to lead. I want Gill to be the captain who comes in if Bumrah has to rest for a Test match, and then immediately after this series is over, Gill can probably take over. Or if Shreyas has a magnificent series, if he's selected, or if KL Rahul, then again, always good to have it's a good problem to have, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean, I won't disagree with what you said. If you make Gill the captain, that's equally a good call. See, as far as actual records are concerned, there's very little to choose between all of them. I mean, you have
True.
Gill averaging 35, you have KL Rahul averaging 34, you have Shreyas averaging 36. The one difference between Gill, Rahul, and Shreyas would be that Shreyas has played the least number of Test matches, just about 14 or 15 Test matches. He hasn't been a regular pick. There are two ways that the BCCI can go. One is have a transitional captain, and the thinking there would be this is going to be a tough series. Okay, you don't have to play Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad in England conditions. It's not the same attack that you're going to be facing, but it's not a bad attack at all. They're going to be relying more on pace. Jofra Archer and Mark Wood are going to be the spearheads for the England attack. So it's high pace, all of that. The England batting is also in a bit of a transition. So, okay, but it's going to be a very tough series and it's the start of a WTC cycle. So you need to do well. You think of all that and you ask yourself, do I want to take a young player aged 25, make him the captain, and making him the captain means one, that he's learning the ropes, and two, that a defeat will weigh heavily on him as opposed to a more experienced captain, because
Yeah.
he'll be like, "Arey yaar, main abhi captain bana and we're losing one match or two matches or something." It can
Yeah.
cause some mental pressure. So you think of that. On the other hand, you think of the fact that a young player is able to shrug off failure faster. Uh, so, do you want a transition phase, or do you want to just take a deep breath and jump off the deep end here? Gill is your future captain, then okay, make him the captain right now and see what happens. And make sure that he is given that confidence that, yeah, okay, you are new to the job, we will be patient with any mistakes you make, and we will have support for you, in the dressing room and even on the ground, all of that. See, I think what I'm saying is ultimately Gill is a logical choice. I think my reluctance to say just pick Gill and be done with it is not because of Gill, but because of how the Indian management is structured. You have
Yeah.
somebody like a Gautam Gambhir who can be very abrasive. You have selectors who won't be clear about what they're thinking. All of that is a huge burden. So yeah, that's my slight sort of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, interesting. We'll know in a few more days, but yeah, very interesting conversation. I didn't know it would head here. I thought we were going to
Yeah,
celebrate Rohit Sharma more than the successors. But having said that, a big salute to Rohit Sharma. Really, like they say, great servant of Indian cricket. Has really done everything that's been asked of him. Has never let ego come in the way. And really, superb cricketer. No doubt about it. And of course, personal favorite of mine comes from my hometown. So I am a bit biased.
it shows.
On that note,
So
after
anyway,
that
yeah,
accusation, I think we'll have to wrap up now before the producer leaves. So, thank you for
right.
watching. Prem, you want to tell the viewers what to do?
Oh yeah, as usual, if you have comments, please. There is a comments field below. There is a subscribe field. There is a button you supposed to a bell icon you're supposed to hit in case you want to be notified of episodes as they drop. And this week is a good reason why you should hit that bell because normally we record on Sundays and it appears on either Monday evening or early Tuesday morning. But as you can see, we're recording on a Thursday and it's going to be uploaded on a Thursday. Why? Because something happened. And things will keep happening. We will keep doing these. We'll break the schedule when it's necessary. So just make sure that you know when we have something up. Hit the bell icon. It takes
Good advice.
barely a fraction of a second. So, and thank you for watching. See you
Thank
next
you
week, I
and bye bye.
suppose.
See you next week. Bye, Prem.
Bye bye. Take care.
Hit a long way. Out on the run is Liriano, and he makes